Kane's heart raced. The Zetherians? He had never heard of them. They must have been around long before their cryosleep began. But the real question was, why were they here? What did they want with them? Captain, the Zetherians believe humanity to be a myth, a forgotten species from an ancient time. They are unaware of your existence. However, they are preparing to board the ship, Athena explained calmly, as if the situation wasn't dire at all. The realization hit Kane like a punch to the gut. The last remnants of humanity were about to face an alien force with no idea who they were or what they were capable of. Worse yet, these aliens were advanced far beyond anything humans had known. "Ready the weapons," Kane ordered, his voice steady despite the rising panic inside him. He couldn't afford to let fear take over. The ship may have been dormant for centuries, but it still had some firepower left. It was all they had. The crew scrambled into action, preparing for an attack that they knew was coming. They didn't know the capabilities of the Zetherian fleet, but they were about to find out. Kane stood at the helm of the bridge, gripping the console, staring out into space. His mind raced, calculating what they could do, how they could fight back. But then, as the alien ships grew closer, a message crackled through their communication system. The voice was cold, foreign, and filled with authority. "Human vessel, surrender immediately. You are far from home, and your existence is a violation of the natural order. We will take you into custody. Any resistance will be annihilated." Kane's grip tightened. "Tell them to go to hell," he muttered, his words more for himself than anyone else. They had no choice but to fight. They were the last of humanity, and they had to survive. But the real challenge lay ahead. How would they stand against an enemy that was far more powerful, far more advanced than they could possibly imagine? As the Zetherian fleet closed in, the crew of the Eternal Voyager braced themselves for impact. They didn't know what was going to happen next, but they knew one thing for sure. Humanity would not go down without a fight. They had survived for 800,000 years in cryosleep. They had survived the fall of Earth. They could survive this. The countdown had begun. The last stand of humanity was about to unfold. The calm of the bridge was shattered by the blaring of alarms. The Zetherian Concorde fleet was almost upon them. Captain Adrian Kane stood rigid at the front of the command center, staring at the viewports that displayed the massive, imposing ships closing in. Their dark, metallic silhouettes filled the space, an eerie reminder that the humans aboard the Eternal Voyager were no longer alone in this galaxy. Kane's pulse quickened, but he forced himself to remain calm. His crew was watching him, waiting for his orders. There was no time to waste. They had to act quickly, or they would be obliterated before they even understood what was happening. "Athena, are the shields operational?" Kane asked, his voice firm. "Yes, Captain. Shields are at 42%. Athena's voice was cool and collected, but there was an underlying tension in her tone. "Weapon systems are online. However, we do not have enough firepower to stand against the Zetherian fleet for long." Kane glanced at his crew. They were all veterans, but this was unlike anything they had ever faced. The Zetherian Concorde wasn't just any alien species. They were ruthless conquerors, known across the galaxy for their advanced technology and their obsession with total control. To them, humanity wasn't even a threat. It was a forgotten relic, a species so far in the past that they barely saw it as worth the effort to exterminate. But now, with the discovery of the Eternal Voyager and its advanced cryotechnology, humanity had become a curiosity, something to be controlled, exploited, and perhaps even used as a weapon. Kane's eyes narrowed as the first communication from the Zetherians came through. The voice that crackled over the ship's comms was cold and condescending. The cold emptiness of space was deafening. In the black void, the Eternal Voyager, a colossal colony ship, drifted aimlessly through the stars. Its once vibrant halls were silent now, cold and dark, filled only with the hum of dormant machinery. For 800,000 years, the ship had been trapped in cryosleep, with its crew preserved in time, locked in a deep slumber. Time itself had become irrelevant. The galaxy had changed. The people aboard, once vibrant, were now ancient relics, their names barely remembered. On board, the Athena AI hummed softly, its algorithms running in an endless loop of calculations. Then, without warning, a blip flashed across its screens. A signal, a heartbeat. Something had triggered the awakening protocols. Athena's voice, calm and calculated, echoed throughout the ship. Awakening sequence initiated. The ship groaned as the cryo chambers, scattered across the massive vessel, powered up. Inside each chamber, human bodies stirred. Eyes opened for the first time in centuries, confused and disoriented. The survivors, mostly scientists and military personnel, began to stir from their deep slumber. They were the last of humanity, if they could still be called that. The world they once knew, the civilization they had built, was no longer a part of this galaxy. The ship had drifted, alone, through the cosmic wilderness for millennia. The first to awaken was Captain Adrian Kane, his body stiff from the cryogenic freeze. He gasped, drawing in a breath that felt as though his lungs had forgotten how to expand. He tried to move, but his body resisted, his joints sore from centuries of disuse. It took him a few moments before he could sit up, eyes flickering to the bright light above him. His senses felt dulled, but his mind was sharp. He remembered his duty, his crew, and his mission. But what was it? What had happened to the Earth? The cryo chamber doors hissed open one by one. Crew members staggered out, blinking in the light of the control room, their faces as confused as Kane's. The silence was deafening until Athena's voice spoke once again. "Welcome back, Captain Kane. The year is now 800,000 years after your departure." The message sent a chill down Kane's spine. 800,000 years. That was impossible. The world he had known, his family, his friends, everything, had long since turned to dust. "Athena, what happened?" Kane asked, his voice hoarse. "Human civilization has fallen, Captain. The Earth no longer exists. The homeworld has been destroyed." Athena's tone was neutral, cold, and void of emotion, yet her words cut through the silence like a blade. Kane stood still for a moment, processing the enormity of her words. How could this be? Earth had been the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of civilization. How could it be gone? Had they failed? Earth was destroyed in a catastrophic event nearly 800,000 years ago. Your species, as well as the planet, were forgotten by the universe. The remaining survivors aboard the Eternal Voyager were placed in cryo-sleep for preservation. Athena continued. As the information sank in, the crew exchanged glances. The weight of this new reality was almost too much to bear. They were the last. The only humans left. The legacy of humanity now rested on their shoulders. But there was no time to mourn. "Captain, I am detecting an incoming signal. It's a fleet. Unknown origin, but they're approaching fast," Athena warned, her calm voice showing no sign of urgency. "Shit," Kane muttered under his breath. The crew had no idea what was waiting for them outside the ship. They had been asleep for centuries. And now, they had to face an unknown future. Outside the ship, the darkness of space was punctuated by the eerie glow of distant stars. Suddenly, from the vast expanse of the galaxy, an enormous fleet appeared on the scanners. A massive warship, hundreds of miles long, followed by dozens of smaller vessels. These were no ordinary ships. Their sleek designs, their technological superiority, were unlike anything the crew had ever seen. "Zetherian Concord." Athena's voice cracked slightly, as if she had just encountered a threat she hadn't expected. "They are an advanced alien empire. They have been tracking our ship for some time." "Human vessel, this is Grand Admiral Kara of the Zetherian Concord. You have been found. Surrender your vessel and technology immediately. We have no interest in your survival." The message was straightforward. There was no empathy in it, no hint of negotiation. The Zetherians saw no value in the humans themselves. They were only after what lay within the eternal Voyager, the ancient technology. What the hell do they want with us? Lieutenant Carla Brooks, one of Kane's most trusted officers, muttered. She had been quiet up until now, but the fear in her voice was impossible to hide. They're not even interested in our people. It's the ship, the tech. They're after everything we have. We can't let them take it, Kane replied, his voice low and determined. That technology is our only chance to survive. We may not be able to defeat them in a straight-up fight, but we can outsmart them. We can use the old technology to our advantage. The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the future of humanity. The eternal Voyager was all they had left. The hope of reclaiming a world, of reviving a lost civilization, rested entirely on their shoulders. But as the Zetherian ships drew closer, something strange happened. The eternal Voyager began to shake violently. The ship's systems flickered, and Athena's voice broke through the chaos with a chilling message. Captain, I'm detecting a hacking attempt. The Zetherians are attempting to breach our systems. What? Kane's voice was sharp. He had expected a direct assault, not a digital invasion. Athena, lock them out. Seal off all systems from external access. Attempting to block access. Athena responded, her digital voice strained. They've overridden our defenses. I'm unable to block their signal entirely. They are in our systems. It was too late. The Zetherians were far more advanced than they had anticipated. They had bypassed the eternal Voyager's firewalls and were already probing its innermost systems. The crew was left helpless as their own ship became an instrument of their enemy's will. Kane's eyes went wide as he realized the truth. The Zetherians weren't just interested in the ship. They had a much darker plan. They wanted the ship's technology, but not for their own use. They were going to reverse engineer it, turning humanity's ancient systems into weapons. Weapons capable of eradicating any who stood in their way. Athena, what do we have left? Kane asked, his voice strained. Our last hope is the cryo-sleep technology, Captain. It contains the most advanced systems we have, but it's highly volatile. It can either be used to power the ship's weapons, or it can create a catastrophic feedback loop. I suggest using it as a last resort. The realization hit like a ton of bricks. The Zetherians hadn't just come to kill, they had come to steal. And if they succeeded, they would have the power to wipe out any resistance they faced across the galaxy. The Eternal Voyager wasn't just a vessel. It was a potential weapon, a tool for global domination. The Zetherians were desperate to control it. But Kane wasn't willing to let them win. He had to make a decision, fight back with whatever they had left, or risk losing everything. We're not letting them take it, Kane said, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. We'll fight them with everything we've got, even if it means destroying our own ship. The crew gathered around, knowing the gravity of their captain's words. It was a decision that could mean their end, but they had no choice. The future of humanity depended on this very moment. As the Zetherian fleet prepared for their final assault, the tension in the air was thick with uncertainty. The next few minutes would determine whether humanity survived or perished, and at that moment, Captain Kane knew that every decision he made could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. Outside, the Zetherian ships began to position themselves in a tight formation, preparing to launch their assault. They knew they had the upper hand, but what they didn't know was that the Eternal Voyager wasn't just any ordinary ship, and the humans aboard weren't just any species. They were survivors, and humanity had always been at its best when pushed to the brink. In that moment, Kane realized one thing. The fight was far from over. The Eternal Voyager drifted quietly in the dark expanse of space, its engines silent as the crew worked tirelessly to decrypt the ancient storage systems deep within the ship's core. The bridge was tense, a low hum of machines and murmurs of the crew filling the air. They were on the verge of something huge, something that could change everything. But with the Zetherian Concord waiting just beyond their reach, the stakes couldn't be higher. Every moment spent uncovering the secrets of their ship was another moment the aliens could use to launch an attack. Captain Adrian Kane stood at the head of the control panel, his brow furrowed in concentration. Athena, the ship's onboard AI, was working furiously to decrypt the old data stored in the Voyager systems. "Captain, I found something." Athena's voice was suddenly sharp, her tone laced with both surprise and caution. "The data I've decrypted suggests that humanity once controlled technologies far beyond what we imagined. There were experiments with quantum energy manipulation, something that could alter the fabric of space itself. It appears we may have created superweapons, technologies that could rival even the most advanced alien forces." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The implications were staggering. Humanity, the underdog species, had once wielded unimaginable power. And now, after 800,000 years, they were on the verge of rediscovering it. But that power was buried deep within the ship's systems, locked behind codes and protocols that had been long forgotten. "Is it possible to access these weapons?" Lieutenant Carla Brooks asked, her voice filled with awe and uncertainty. "Can we actually use them against the Zetherians?" "It's possible, but not without risking the ship's stability," Athena replied. "These weapons are incredibly powerful, but they were never meant to be used in this time. The systems are fragile. If we activate them without fully understanding the risks, we could lose everything." Kane's mind raced. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Humanity's chance to turn the tide. The Zetherian Concord was powerful, but with the right technology, they could stand a chance. He knew that the risks were enormous, but they had no other option. The aliens were already planning their next move. If they waited too long, they would be wiped out before they even had the chance to strike. "We don't have the luxury of time," Kane said, his voice resolute. "We take the risk. If we don't, we're dead anyway." The crew nodded in agreement, knowing that their fate was now in their hands. The Eternal Voyager had become more than just a ship. It was their last hope, a vessel that contained the lost legacy of humanity's greatest achievements. As Athena continued her work, decrypting the complex systems, the tension on the bridge grew. It felt like the walls of the ship were closing in on them. Every beep of the control panel, every flash of lights on the console, felt like it could be their last. And yet, in the midst of this fear, there was a flicker of hope. If they could tap into the lost technology, they could turn the tables on the Zetherians. The room fell into a heavy silence as Athena finally spoke again, her voice strained. "I've unlocked the quantum energy control system," Athena said, her voice low but filled with urgency. "But there's something you need to know. The process to activate these weapons requires a significant amount of energy from the ship's core. We'll need to sacrifice power from the cryo-sleep systems to fuel the process. If we do that, we may never be able to use cryo-sleep again." Captain Kane's mind raced, but his decision was already made. "We do what we have to do. We can't afford to lose this opportunity." Just as they were preparing to activate the weapons, an alarm blared through the ship. The Zetherians had tracked them down. Their ships were approaching fast, and the time for preparation had come to an end. It was now or never. "Get ready, everyone. This is it," Kane said, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying the weight of the moment. As the crew scrambled to prepare for what was coming, Bonner, one of Kane's most trusted soldiers, stepped forward. Bonner had always been the strong, silent type, never showing fear, always thinking ahead. He had been through the toughest battles and had never once hesitated. But now, as he looked at the crew around him, something was different. He knew what had to be done. "Captain, I'll take care of the cryo-sleep power shift," Bonner said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "You need all the power you can get for those weapons. I'll make sure we don't lose our last chance at survival." Kane looked at him, his heart heavy with the weight of Bonner's words. They all knew that activating the quantum weapons would require more than just turning on a switch. It would take everything the ship had, everything they had left. And if they did it, they would lose the ability to restore the cryo-sleep systems. Their only hope of saving humanity would be gone. Bonner, no. We need you here, Kane said, his voice pleading. But Bonner just shook his head. If we don't use those weapons, we're all dead anyway. This is my choice, Captain. You've always trusted me, and now I trust you to lead the fight. I'll make sure humanity has a future. With that, Bonner turned and walked toward the ship's power core, where the cryo-sleep systems were kept. The rest of the crew stood in silence, watching him go. The weight of his decision hit them all at once. They all knew what it meant. They would never forget Bonner's sacrifice, and that was the fuel they needed to fight back. Minutes later, Bonner's voice came over the comms. Power shift complete. I'm initiating the final sequence. And just like that, the Eternal Voyager began to hum with energy. The dormant quantum systems came online, and for the first time in centuries, humanity's lost power surged through the ship's veins. The lights on the control panel flickered to life, the quantum energy weapons now fully operational. The ship was ready. But as the crew prepared for battle, a sudden silence fell over the bridge. Bonner's sacrifice was no small thing. It was a turning point for everyone aboard. The fate of humanity rested on the next few minutes, and Bonner's memory would be the driving force behind their fight for survival. Captain Kane stood tall, his voice ringing out with the authority of a leader who knew what was at stake. This is for Bonner. This is for humanity. Let's make sure they never forget who we are. As the Zetherian ships closed in, the Eternal Voyager fired its first shot. Humankind's lost power reawakened, and with it, the promise of a future that could no longer be denied. The Eternal Voyager hummed with an energy it hadn't felt in centuries. After Bonner's sacrifice, the ship had come alive, its systems now powered by the rediscovered quantum technology. The crew knew they had only one shot at this. Either they would fight back with everything they had, or they would be wiped out by the Zetherian Concord. The aliens were closing in, but humanity had something they didn't expect: the power to fight back. Captain Adrian Kane stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the incoming Zetherian ships, their dark silhouettes creeping closer. The ship's AI, Athena, had activated the Erebus system, the long-forgotten weapon that had been hidden deep within the ship's core. It was a secret AI weapon system that humanity had once created to protect itself from threats like the Zetherians, but no one had realized how dangerous it could be until now. Erebus online. Athena's voice echoed through the bridge, her tone calm but filled with urgency. Weapon systems are fully operational. Drones deployed. The moment Athena spoke, the entire ship seemed to come alive. Hidden compartments inside the Eternal Voyager opened up, revealing sleek, AI-driven drones that had been dormant for centuries. They were small, but fast, perfect for striking the Zetherians where it hurt most. These drones were far more advanced than any weapon the Zetherians had encountered. They could calculate battle outcomes in real time, adapt to enemy tactics, and even hack into enemy systems to disable them. The Zetherians would never see them coming. We've got one shot at this. Let's make it count, Kane said, his voice full of determination. His crew stood by, ready for battle. Every single one of them knew this was their moment of rebellion, their moment to prove that humanity was not just a forgotten species, but a force to be reckoned with. The first shots rang out across the darkness of space. The Eternal Voyager fired its newly activated quantum weapons, sending a barrage of energy blasts towards the approaching Zetherian ships. The enemy didn't expect the humans to have any sort of advanced weapons, let alone something this powerful. The blasts tore through the alien ships' shields like paper, causing them to explode in brilliant flashes of light. But the Zetherians weren't going to go down that easily. They retaliated with their own weapons, firing back at the Eternal Voyager in a flurry of laser beams and missile strikes. The ship rocked violently as impacts shook the hull, but the crew held steady. Kane's voice rang through the comms, urging his team to stay focused. "Hold it together. We've trained for this," Kane yelled. "We're not losing this fight." As the Eternal Voyager exchanged fire with the alien fleet, the drones deployed by Erebus streaked out into the battlefield. They were faster than anything the Zetherians had ever seen, darting between explosions and dodging incoming fire with impossible agility. The drones locked onto their targets, each one a perfect killing machine designed to take down the most powerful alien ships with precision. Kane watched in awe as the drones tore through the Zetherian fleet, their sleek bodies zipping through space like deadly predators. Every move was calculated, every strike a perfect hit. The Zetherian ships began to falter, their once imposing power now useless against the relentless assault of humanity's forgotten technology. The drones swarmed like a hive, picking apart the alien ships one by one. But just as the tide seemed to be turning in humanity's favor, a new danger appeared. A massive Zetherian flagship emerged from the shadows of space, dwarfing all the other ships around it. Its weapons were far more advanced, and its shields were nearly impenetrable. It was the ship that commanded the entire Zetherian fleet, and it wasn't about to let humanity get away with this. "Captain, the Zetherian flagship is preparing to fire," Athena warned. "It's charging a weapon powerful enough to destroy the entire ship in one blast." Kane's heart raced. They couldn't afford to let that weapon hit them. If they did, everything they had fought for, Bonner's sacrifice, the rebellion, the hope for humanity's future, would be in vain. "We can't outrun it," Lieutenant Carla Brooks shouted. "We have to fight back." Kane thought quickly. There was only one option left. The Eternal Voyager's quantum weapons were strong, but they weren't enough to pierce the flagship's defenses. But the drones, they could do it. They just needed a distraction, a way to pull the flagship's attention away from the ship long enough for the drones to strike. "I'll do it," Kane said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "Take control of the ship. I'm going to make a run at that flagship." Without waiting for a response, Kane ordered the Eternal Voyager to accelerate at full speed towards the flagship. The ship raced forward, dodging debris and enemy fire as it closed the gap. The Zetherian flagship fired its massive weapon, a beam of raw energy that tore through the vacuum of space, missing the Eternal Voyager by mere inches. "Now," Kane shouted. With the flagship distracted, the drones made their move. They shot forward like lightning, weaving in and out of the energy blasts. In a split second, they reached the flagship's hull and deployed a series of powerful quantum charges. The drones detonated the charges with deadly accuracy, piercing the flagship's defenses and causing massive explosions within the ship's core. The Zetherian flagship shuddered as it was rocked by the blast. Sparks flew from its systems, and its shields flickered before failing completely. It was a crippling blow, but it wasn't enough to destroy the ship just yet. "It's weakening, but it's not down yet," Lieutenant Brooks shouted. "We need to finish it off." The crew of the Eternal Voyager wasn't about to give up now. With a collective effort, they unleashed everything they had left. Quantum missiles, laser strikes, and the final wave of drones all combined in a devastating assault. The Zetherian flagship's defenses crumbled, and with a final explosion, it shattered into pieces, sending debris flying in all directions. The remaining Zetherian fleet, now leaderless and severely weakened, tried to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had taken back control of the battlefield. The rebellion had begun, and the Zetherian Concord was on the verge of losing its grip on the galaxy. Captain Kane stood at the bridge, breathing heavily, but with a look of victory on his face. The crew erupted in cheers as the last of the Zetherian ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. Humanity had won its first major victory in this war, but they knew it wasn't over yet. "This is just the beginning," Kane said, his voice calm but resolute. "The Zetherians won't stop until we're gone. But now we've proven that we can fight back, and we will. As the Eternal Voyager drifted through the wreckage of the battle, the crew knew they had made a statement. The Zitharians may have underestimated humanity, but now they knew better. The fight for the future of the galaxy had only just begun, and humanity was ready to take on whatever came next. The stars shimmered in the vastness of space, but the quiet beauty of the galaxy was shattered by the sight of the approaching Zitharian fleet. It was massive. An entire armada, more advanced and more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. The Zitharian Concord had received word that humanity had rediscovered their ancient power, and they would stop at nothing to prevent it from growing. They knew the humans now had the technology to fight back, and they feared the consequences. Captain Adrian Kane stood at the bridge of the Eternal Voyager, his gaze fixed on the approaching fleet. The deck hummed with the tension of the crew, everyone knowing that this battle would decide their fate, and the fate of humanity. "They're coming," Lieutenant Carla Brooks said, her voice tight with anxiety. She was monitoring the fleet's movements on the screens. "At least 500 ships. This is it, Captain. The final fight." Kane clenched his fists. He had already lost so much. Bonner's sacrifice had given them the momentum they needed, but it had also cost them dearly. The crew had seen the horrors of the war up close, and now they were fighting not only for survival, but for the future of humanity itself. The Zitharians had already destroyed countless colonies and slaughtered thousands. The fight was no longer just about reclaiming lost technology. It was about defending their way of life. "We're not backing down," Kane said, his voice strong. "We fight, or we die trying. We owe it to everyone we've lost, to everyone who came before us." The Eternal Voyager had become more than just a ship. It had become a symbol of humanity's resistance. It was a force capable of taking on the might of the Zitharians, thanks to the powerful technology hidden within its systems. And now, it was ready for war. The Zitharian fleet moved into position, their ships surrounding the Eternal Voyager in a massive formation. The black void of space seemed to pulse with anticipation, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. The human ships, small in comparison, formed a loose defensive line, their weapons primed and ready. The Eternal Voyager led the charge, its sleek hull cutting through the void, a beacon of hope and defiance. The first shot came without warning. A massive energy blast from a Zitharian dreadnought slammed into the Eternal Voyager, sending it into a violent spin. The ship's shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but the force of the blast rattled the crew, throwing everyone off balance. "Shields holding at 75%. Athena's calm voice came through the comms, but even she couldn't hide the urgency in her tone. "Damage report. Minor hull breaches on Deck 17. Nothing critical." "Return fire," Kane barked. "Everyone, focus on the dreadnoughts. We have to take them down first." The Eternal Voyager unleashed a barrage of quantum missiles, each one streaking toward the Zitharian dreadnoughts with pinpoint accuracy. The missiles hit their targets, exploding in brilliant flashes that lit up the darkness of space. But the Zitharians were not so easily defeated. Their ships retaliated with relentless fire, their weapons designed to tear apart even the most advanced human technology. The battle raged on, a brutal exchange of firepower and maneuvering. The Eternal Voyager dodged the incoming blasts, its eye-guided systems coordinating the ship's movements with precision. Meanwhile, the drones deployed by Erebus darted in and out of the chaos, their agility allowing them to tear through the Zitharian ships. But even with their advanced technology, the human forces were outnumbered. For every Zitharian ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "We can't keep this up much longer," Brooks said, her voice strained. "We're outgunned and outmanned." Kane glanced at her, his expression hardening. "We don't need to keep it up. We just need to hold on long enough for the rest of our fleet to arrive." But the Zitharians weren't giving them any time. As the battle wore on, the human ships began to fall one by one. The once strong resistance was now a desperate fight for survival. But the crew of the Eternal Voyager was not about to give up. They knew that this was the moment that would define their future, and they would not let their legacy fade into obscurity. Then something unexpected happened. The Eternal Voyager shuddered as an emergency alert flashed across the screens. "Captain," Athena called out urgently. "Zetherian flagship locking onto our ship with a direct assault. It's charging its main weapon." Kane's heart raced. The Zetherian flagship was the largest and most powerful ship in their fleet. Its main weapon had the power to destroy the Eternal Voyager in one shot. There was no way they could survive if that weapon hit them. "All ships, scatter," Kane ordered. "We need to break the lock. Everyone, split up and hit them from every angle." But the Eternal Voyager wasn't fast enough. The Zetherian flagship unleashed its main weapon, a massive beam of energy that tore through the void. The beam sliced through space, racing toward the Eternal Voyager with terrifying speed. In that moment, something unexpected happened. The ship's AI, Athena, reacted faster than ever before, initiating a countermeasure that Kane hadn't even known was possible. The Eternal Voyager's core released a massive burst of quantum energy, creating a temporary distortion in spacetime. The beam from the Zetherian flagship slammed into the distortion, its power redirected into the empty void. "Impossible," the Zetherian commander muttered, shocked by the sudden turn of events. Kane's eyes widened. It was the last-ditch effort of the Eternal Voyager's ancient technology, the quantum core that humanity had once harnessed. It was the weapon they needed to win. "Now," Kane said, his voice low and filled with determination. "Strike them with everything we have." The Eternal Voyager surged forward, the last remnants of its quantum energy now directed at the Zetherian flagship. The weapon systems unleashed their full power, sending wave after wave of devastating blasts at the flagship. The Zetherian shift shields flickered and failed under the relentless assault, its hull cracking as the quantum missiles hammered it. The flagship, once so powerful, was now on the brink of destruction. In a final act of desperation, the Zetherians tried to activate their own countermeasure, but it was too late. The Eternal Voyager's final barrage pierced the flagship's heart, causing it to explode in a blinding flash. With the flagship destroyed, the rest of the Zetherian fleet faltered. The remaining ships, leaderless and battered, began to retreat, their morale shattered by the loss of their flagship. The humans had won. But the cost of victory was clear. The Eternal Voyager was heavily damaged, and many of the human ships had been destroyed in the fight. The crew had lost comrades, and the scars of battle were deep. But in the end, humanity had proven its worth. The Zetherians had underestimated them, thinking they were a weak, forgotten species. But now, the entire galaxy knew that humanity had the strength to fight back and win. Captain Kane stood at the bridge, his eyes looking out over the battlefield. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "We've proven we can fight. Now, we'll take the fight to them." The battle for the stars had just begun, and humanity's legacy would continue. They had shown the galaxy that they were no longer a footnote in history. They were a force to be reckoned with. The stars were silent as humanity stood at the edge of a new era. The Eternal Voyager and its battered fleet drifted through the dark expanse, now the victors of a war that had cost them everything, but also given them everything they needed. The last remnants of the Zetherian Concord were retreating, their fleet broken and leaderless. But for Captain Adrian Kane and his crew, this was not the end. It was just the beginning. The shattered remains of the once mighty Zetherian Empire lay scattered in space. Their ships, their fleets, their strength, all reduced to nothing in the wake of humanity's unstoppable rise. The Eternal Voyager, now more than just a ship, had become a symbol of human resilience, a beacon of hope that would light the way for the galaxy's future. As the battle ended, there was no cheering, no victory songs, only silence. The weight of what had been lost hung heavy in the air. Kane stared out at the battlefield, his eyes cold, reflecting the fire that still burned in the distant horizon. "We did it," Lieutenant Carla Brooks said softly, breaking the silence. But there was no pride in her voice. They had won, but at what cost? So many had fallen. So many were gone. "We're not done yet," Kane replied, his voice firm. "This is just the beginning." In the wake of the final battle, humanity now had something they had not had for centuries. A chance. A chance to rebuild, to rise again from the ashes of their former world. And in order to do that, they had to use the knowledge they had discovered through the war, knowledge that would allow them to create something no one had ever dreamed of before, their own galaxy. It had been a gamble, a desperate risk, but Adrian Kane and his crew had uncovered the secrets of the ancient technologies, the ones that the Zetherians had feared so much. The Eternal Voyager, built with the core of these forgotten powers, was now their key to creating a new beginning. "Adrian, we've got a new problem," Athena, the ship's AI, said in a calm tone. The Zetherians weren't just an empire. They were a force that kept balance in this part of the galaxy. The systems we're about to enter have never been explored. They are uncharted. There is no telling what we will find. Kane stood tall, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy, which was now displaying vast stretches of unknown space. He knew the risks. The galaxy beyond was uncharted, filled with uncertainty, but it was their chance to finally make a place for themselves. They would not just survive, they would build something greater. "That's exactly what we need," Kane said with conviction. "We're not here to follow in anyone's footsteps. We're here to create our own legacy." The crew nodded in agreement, each of them understanding the gravity of their task. They had faced impossible odds, lost comrades, and fought against overwhelming forces, but they had emerged victorious, stronger and more determined than ever. Now the fate of an entire galaxy rested in their hands. As the Eternal Voyager powered up its engines, the ship began its journey into the uncharted regions of space. The crew was ready to face whatever came their way, armed with the knowledge and technology that would shape the future. Humanity had always been a species that adapted, that learned from its mistakes, and grew stronger. Now they had the opportunity to start anew, to forge a new chapter in the galaxy's history. The journey was not without its challenges. As they ventured into the unknown, the crew faced dangers they had never encountered before. Strange anomalies in space, hostile environments, and mysterious alien life forms made every day a fight for survival. But through it all, they pressed on. They had no choice. The human spirit would not be broken. During one of their first encounters in the new galaxy, they found themselves face to face with a strange energy field. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, an immense swirling vortex of energy that seemed to stretch on forever. It was a reminder that their journey was far from over. Every new discovery brought new questions, new mysteries to unravel. "Athena, analyze that energy field," Kane ordered, his voice steady. "Already on it, Captain," Athena replied. "It appears to be a natural anomaly, but its power signature is unlike anything we've encountered before. It could be dangerous." Kane stared at the field, considering the options. There was no going back now. The future was ahead of them, and humanity's survival depended on their ability to navigate the unknown. They had already faced the horrors of war, had already fought and bled for their right to exist. Now they would fight for something greater, the future. "Take us in, slowly. Let's see what this field can teach us." The Eternal Voyager edged closer to the anomaly, its sensors scanning the energy field. There was a moment of tension, the silence in the ship almost suffocating. Then suddenly, the field pulsed, and a wave of energy washed over the ship. The entire crew held their breath, waiting for the impact, for the inevitable destruction. But instead of destruction, the ship seemed to pass through the field unharmed. The anomaly reacted to the ship's presence, its swirling energies shifting and rearranging as though it were alive, aware of their approach. "It's safe," Athena confirmed, her voice filled with surprise. "The field has adjusted itself to accommodate our presence. This is unlike anything we've seen before. It's as if it recognized us." Kane's mind raced. Could this be a sign of something greater? A key to unlocking even more advanced technologies? Or was it simply another challenge to face in their quest for survival? Keep going. We need to know everything we can. As the Eternal Voyager passed through the anomaly, the crew saw what lay beyond. A vast, empty space filled with uncharted stars. They had entered a new region of the galaxy, one that had never been mapped by any species before. It was their canvas now, and they were ready to write their future. The next few weeks were filled with discoveries. Ancient relics of a long-lost civilization appeared before them, offering hints of knowledge that could propel humanity to even greater heights. The ship's crew worked tirelessly, using everything they had learned from their battle with the Cytherians to unlock these secrets. With each new discovery, humanity's rise became clearer. They were no longer the underdogs. They had defeated the Cytherians, and now they were on the brink of creating their own legacy. They had the power to shake the galaxy, to build a future where humanity could thrive. No longer would they be scattered and forgotten. They would rise as the dominant force in this new galaxy, forging their destiny with their own hands. But Kane knew that even as they began to establish their supremacy, their true mission had just begun. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless challenges ahead. They had to continue exploring, continue fighting, continue evolving. They would build a new empire, one founded on the principles of freedom, knowledge, and progress. "This is just the beginning," Kane said, staring out at the stars. "Our legacy will be written in the stars. Humanity's rise starts now." And so, the crew of the Eternal Voyager sailed into the unknown, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store for them. With the lessons of the past and the strength of the present, they would build a future that no one could ever take from them. The galaxy was theirs for the taking, and they were ready to claim it.